here at IBC at the White Light booth showing off the wonderful SmartStage. I have with me Andy Hook from White Light. Andy, thank you very much for joining me, although I guess I'm joining you on your booth. How are things?
Very good, very good. Very successful show. Lots of interest in the product.
Excellent, excellent. So this amazing space that you have set up here, can you tell me a little bit about what's going on?
So this is basically a replacement for traditional green screen technology. So we're using LED video walls instead of a green screen to create a more believable, engaging environment. So we can actually see the content that's around us. We can see what's happening in these screens. It lights us more naturally. The reflections are real, and we can actually have sort of engaging conversations in what's going on around us rather than trying to work in green screen where you've no idea what's really going on.
See, I love the fact that I can actually point to this as a point of reference and speak to it. It does look like I'm actually engaged with the content.
Exactly, and it's lighting you properly. We don't have to light the background, so we can use real studio lighting to light us properly. We can see the logo on the floor, we can point to the outline of this screen, we can talk about the content that's happening in the screens around us.
There's obviously a lot of technology on this booth. Can you tell me a little bit about what you have going on here?
So we're using camera tracking to generate the content to the perspective of the camera. So to the camera it looks like we're in this 3D environment. The camera can pan around in 360 degrees. The Disguised Media Server is creating content to the perspective of that camera in this full 360 world. And wherever there is pixels of LED video, the content appears behind us. And where there's no pixels, the Disguised Media Server puts it into virtual reality or augmented reality, so you get that full immersive environment.
That's
then we've got lighting in space, that's being tracked with the BlackTrax system. So we're using BlackTrax tracking to actually locate presenters in the space and objects we might bring into the space. So we're actually able to light the performers properly as they move around inside the studio. Because it's not green screen, we don't need to worry about lighting the green screen, so we can light us properly, and being able to track that lighting makes a big difference for that.
What sort of automation elements do you have on here? I notice this beautiful robotic arm I see in front of me.
So we're using a robotic arm that can output tracking data back into the system. We're using camera tracking systems to generate the content to that perspective, and then align that with the tracking system of the performers in the space. We're aware of where everything is then in 3D space, so we can automate the content generation based on where we are, where the cameras are, where the LED walls are. And that's allowing us to do things like walk around augmented reality. Whereas normally augmented reality would always be in front of us and it's added in what we call front plate. We can actually automate the process based on where we are in the space to walk around that augmented reality object.
So speaking of being able to walk around, how does tracking from the BlackTrax system play into that ability to walk around a 3D space or even walk around virtual objects?
Because we understand where the person is by using BlackTrax, cameras around us are actually sensing where we are in the space. The media server is location aware, if you like. It understands where we are versus where we've placed the object. So it can either push the object into the background so we can see it and it appears behind us, or in front of us so we can walk behind it. And we automate that process based on where we are in 3D space. And we also are able to track objects that we bring into the space. So if we bring real furniture into the space, we can attach objects in virtual reality to that object. We can move that around the studio environment. We can bring in virtual objects to use as lighting sources. So one of our fun demonstrations we've been showing here is with a torch that we've added BlackTrax to. And that allows us to actually light up the space around us as we move that virtual torch around.
I know that one of the major headaches that studios have is when they're switching out shows or going between shows, quickly dragging over any props or furniture, and then having to snap the digital content directly onto those elements.
Yeah. Exactly, so BlackTrax allows us to automate that process. If we bring a piece of furniture in, something could be pinned to that furniture, or the background could be reacting to where that furniture is being placed. So it's able to actually automate that sort of set design and set transition process really quickly.
On top of everything, how do you see this playing a major role in future productions and future studios?
For us, it's all about making more believable environments. So I've said lighting's real, reflections are real, the content feels more real because it's around us. The tracking is making the interactions more real, and the pieces of set we're bringing in makes that engagement with that more real. So it's about creating environments that we can come in, zero rehearsal, zero training, and actually engage in and create more believable content. We're finding traction by people like professors, athletes, thought leaders, politicians, people who might come into a set location. You don't really want them to rehearse because you want the first take to be that really engaging, natural, emotive content. So they may not have any broadcast training, they may be relatively young, they may be fairly inexperienced. We want them to come into the space, immediately be able to see the environment around them, interact with it, and that creates this really engaging content. And I think that's the future, is creating more and more content more believably.
Wow, so this almost turns anybody into a professional in a heartbeat.
So, yeah.
Well, hey, Andy, thank you very much for
No problem.
sharing a little bit about the SmartStage, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks
Cheers.
very much. Thanks.